company DNA for what happened. They've also decided to hand over the case to the CID of the Karnataka police. But there is a glaring lapse and a glaring question that stares everyone in the face. What about the state itself? Can the state absolve itself of all responsibility? The Chief Minister, the Deputy Chief Minister, the Home Minister, the Police Chief, the State Cricket Board, all of these entities, these individuals are just as culpable. But somehow, the police has decided to give all of these folks a clean shit already and decided instead to go after the low-hanging fruit, which is the event organizers, the private event management company, and the RCB franchise. Not to suggest that none of them have a role to play or none of them need to be held to account, but there are much bigger fish who are at play here. Somehow, this FIR seems to absolve all of them of their share of the blame.
Heaps of footwear and other belongings lying outside gate number 21 of Chinnaswamy Stadium explains what transpired here yesterday. Multiple lapses that one can really point out. To begin with, how did 2 lakh people manage to get to this area of Bengaluru? Why were there no proper crowd control measures by the Bangalore police?
The Vidhana Sauda, the seat of power, saw its fair share of damage as people in a hurry to catch a glimpse of their marquee players and the stars of the RCB team who were felicitated by the Karnataka government led by CM Siddaramaiah have left the entire surroundings outside the Vidhana Sauda with a lot of damage.
One of the victims, survivors who I spoke to, spoke about how she got pushed completely by the people. She was flat on the ground and she had people walking all over her. And as she recounted her horrific story, she was talking about how she felt that if she was conscious for a minute more, she would have lost her life.
Now, I just want to bring you up to speed with a couple of facts. One, the sequence of events, the timeline, and that will give you an indication also of who's responsible. Here's how this horrific tragedy really played out. The timeline of what exactly happened on the evening of the 4th of June. In fact, the entire day of the 4th of June. At 7 a.m., the RCB franchise puts out a post on their social media. They've announced a victory parade from Vidhan Sauda to the Chinnaswamy Stadium. This tweet, this social media post is very much there. According to that announcement, the parade was scheduled to begin about 3:30 in the afternoon from Vidhan Sauda. It was supposed to be an open-top bus ride from Vidhan Sauda to the Chinnaswamy Stadium, a distance of about 1 kilometer or so. A little past 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Karnataka Home Minister Mr. Parameshwara says that, look, the police are saying they can't give security for this open-top bus ride, therefore they're cancelling the parade. Meanwhile, he also claimed that the arrangements have been made just in case the parade goes on. That in itself is a contradiction. Home Minister says the police are not confident they can provide security, arrangements are not in place and therefore cancel the parade. But he also says that just in case the parade happens, then we have arrangements in place. There was chaos, there was confusion, there was no clarity up until 2 p.m. and even after that, an hour later at 3 o'clock, despite all of this confusion, the Home Minister saying one thing, the police saying one thing, whether the parade will happen, not happen, and yet the crowd starts gathering there in the roads leading up to the stadium. It's chock-a-block full. It's a small sort of road that leads up to the Chinnaswamy Stadium. At 3:15 o'clock, the Royal Challengers Bengaluru confirmed. They put another post out on social media that yes, there is a victory parade. It's going to happen from 5 o'clock onwards. It's going to be between Vidhan Sauda and Chinnaswamy Stadium. That post is put out at an hour and 15 minutes after the Home Minister said no such parade. Following that, a large number of fans began pouring into the Chinnaswamy Stadium. The entry points got completely clogged off. The cops had to resort to lathi charge. This was an attempt to try and control the crowds. In the meanwhile, the stadium organizers, the KSCA, the folks inside the stadium, decided to let everybody in without giving any kind of headcount management, without giving any tickets. It was a free pass issued to whoever could make it, almost like a first come, first serve. Therefore, everybody was rushing into the stadium when the stadium could hold only 30,000 people. More than 1 lakh tried to barge in. But the Congress government has absolved itself. Like I said, the Chief Minister, the Deputy Chief Minister, the Home Minister, none of them are taking any responsibility on themselves. They have said that it's the RCB franchise owners, the event management company, the State Cricket Association. These are the folks against whom the complaint has been registered, the FIR has been registered. Let's listen into what various political personalities in Karnataka have said a day after this terrible and entirely avoidable tragedy.
Nobody has expected so much of crowd will come because the capacity of the stadium is only 35,000. But 2 to 3 lakh people have come to participate in the celebration.
We didn't make a request to the RCB or the KSCA. They organized this.
Yes, sir.
The part of it was government also felt that we also should facilitate them. That's all. After all, it is Bangalore, Bangalore team. The government also felt that let us be part of that celebration. That's all. Beyond that, we didn't ask. We are going to do it. RCB and KSCA, they are the ones who brought the team to Bangalore.
Though it has happened very unexpectedly. We never expected, no one expected such a crowd. After 18 years, I don't know what was boiling in the youngsters. They all came.
Now, in the process of pointing fingers and responsibility trying to be fixed, who really is responsible for the loss of these 11 lives? The buck has to stop with the state government, and that has been completely overlooked. It is the state government's responsibility to maintain public safety. It is the state government's responsibility to ensure that life is protected. They went on, they continued with the victory bash even after it was known that people had died and there was a stampede happening outside the Chinnaswamy Stadium. The Bangalore police, it's their responsibility. They failed to manage the swelling crowds. They had no crowd management control, no proper procedure to control the crowds out there. They claim that they had already warned the state government they can't manage these crowds, so therefore don't have this ceremony at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, but that fell on deaf ears. The Karnataka cricket body, the KSCA, they were the ones who planned this bash. They are the organizers inside the stadium. They know how much the stadium can hold, what is the capacity. They didn't necessarily have all the proper clearance from all parties concerned, and without proper arrangements in place, they hastily put together this felicitation ceremony, which of course ended in this tragedy. And then there is the organizers, the owners, and the franchise owners of the RCB, the Royal Challengers Bengaluru. They hastily announced free passes. How can they announce free passes, especially when they know there is so much of fan frenzy going on? It's the first time in 18 years that the team has won. And more importantly, the stadium cannot hold more than 30,000 people. Why did they announce free passes? Why did they not have any headcount management facilities available there for this victory bash, despite no clarity on the timings, despite the fact that the police said that they can't give guarantee for any security for this open-top bus ride or for what was planned inside the stadium. Despite all of those red flags being raised, the franchise owners went ahead and did this ceremony, did this felicitation, in which unfortunately so many lives were lost. So even as these parties involved continue to trade charges, continue to shift blame, the families of those who've lost their lives, they are the ones who are the most affected. They are the ones who at the end of the day are counting their losses, grieving for their losses, and frankly, the only losses seem to be of those folks, because at the end of the day, in a week's time, the state would have moved on, RCB would have moved on, even the media would have moved on. The loss is permanent for those 11 families who lost their loved ones.
ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಹುಡುಗರು ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಿರ್ಗ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಣ್ಣ ಹಿಂಗಾಯ್ತು. ಅವ್ರ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗವ್ರೆ, ನನ್ ಮಗ ಹೋದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ನನ್ ಮಗಂಗ್ ಬಂತಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ, ಕಾಪಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ವಲ್ಲ. ಅಯ್ಯ ದುಡ್ಡು ತಣ್ಣ ನಾನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳಕ್, ನನ್ ಮಗನ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಬತ್ತಾರಣ್ಣ, ನನ್ ಮಗನ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಬರ್ಲಣ್ಣ, ನನ್ ಮಗನ್ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಬಂದ್ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿ ನನ್ಗೆ. ನನ್ ಮಗ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕ್ ನನ್ಗೆ, ನನ್ ಮಗ ಬೇಕು ನನ್ಗೆ, ನನ್ ಮಗ ಬೇಕು.
ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಅವರ್ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅವನು ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಬ್ಬ ಮಗನ ಸಾಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ, 22 ವರ್ಷ ಅವನಿಗೆ ತುತ್ತು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ ಸಾಕಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಒಂದು ಧೋರಣೆಯಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀದಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಣ ಆಗಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟೆ. ನನಗೆ ಕೇಳ್ದೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೆ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಇವಾಗದೇ ನನಗೊಂಚೂರು ಮಾಡಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡಿ. ಆಗೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ, ಬರೋದು ಹೋಗೋದು. ನಿಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಕೋಟಿ ಜನಗಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನನಗಾಗಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ
ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪಕ್ಕಕ್ಕೆ ರಾಜಪ್ಪ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ
All right, I want to go across for a quick political face-off. Syed Zafar Islam is national spokesperson of the BJP. Brijesh Karlappa, spokesperson of the Congress Party. Brijesh, I mean, you heard from those families, the father of the lost son, the mother who lost her son as well. I mean, it's fine for the state to register an FIR, and the RCB franchise owners have been booked. So have the event organizers. But what about the state itself? I mean, why aren't politicians getting booked for this? The Bangalore police, their role. Why is none of this being probed?
No, of course, there is a magisterial inquiry, and that magisterial inquiry has already been announced. That's under Section 2G of the Code of Criminal Procedure, and that will encompass every single aspect of this stampede and the causes for the death. So there is nobody who's going to be absolved of any crime. If there is a crime, certainly you can take it for granted that those persons will certainly be booked. One. Two is, as far as the government event was concerned, the moment we realized that things were going out of control at the KSCA, you must realize that there were two functions. There were no deaths at the government function, right? Whatever deaths have occurred at the private function, which was organized by the RCB and the KSCA, right? So this must be kept in mind by both you and your viewers. Now, after having said that, when the deaths have occurred and when we realize in Vidhan Sabha that this has happened, the function was immediately shortened. Those victims were immediately taken to hospital. They were given treatment. Chief Minister and the Deputy Chief Minister sat for a press conference and they addressed the media. They have taken full accountability. They have taken full responsibility for what happened.
Hang on. One second, Brijesh. One second. Brijesh, no, that's not the sequence of events. That is not true.
1 minute, sir.
That is not the sequence of events. First of all, Brijesh, one second. Brijesh,
I know you will have
No, hear me out. Hear me out. One second.
You hear me out. You gave me a chance to talk. Now give me a chance to complete myself.
This function at the Vidhan Sabha was a last-minute thing for which the cops are now saying, look, we said we can't take guarantee for this. The cops are now saying, we said we can't take guarantee for this open-top bus ride. The function at the Vidhan Sabha was cleared. Surely, I mean, you know this better than me. Surely this was cleared at the highest echelons of the state government, which means at the Chief Minister's office. Now, there was no particular need for this function at the Vidhan Sabha. People started gathering at that golf course road or whatever it's called, from the Vidhan Sabha all the way to the Chinnaswamy Stadium, because they were waiting for, catching a glimpse. Wherever they could catch a glimpse of the team, they would stand out there. So I don't know why accountability is not being fixed for that. Two, if the cops have indeed said this and written a letter to the Chief Minister's office, we can't guarantee security all along this road, then why were the crowds allowed to, mill around there in the first place? And three, rightfully so, the KSCA and the RCB need to be booked and they need to be asked questions, because if they knew fully well that the stadium has only a capacity of 30,000 people, why were 1 lakh people allowed to enter inside?
See, Zaka, the first thing is that I was only completing my argument, which you didn't perhaps want me to say, because it probably shows the media in poor light and the BJP in poor light. Media is always trying to hold a torch for the BJP. I was only trying to compare this to what happened at Kumbh, where over 100 people have died. At least we know exactly what the numbers are here, okay? And one, and two, I completely contradict what you're saying. I'm glad that the government function took place, because if the government function hadn't taken place, can you imagine if the entire cloud had milled around the KSCA, the deaths would have been 10 times the present number. So I'm glad today, as a spectator, as somebody who was closely watching the proceedings, I'm glad that the government organized another function.
Okay.
It's something that happened which really saved lives.
Zafar, so Brajesh saying that it's actually better that the government organized that hastily put together function. At least the crowds would have been sort of divided between the stadium and the assembly building. Otherwise, everybody would have congregated outside the stadium and the deaths would have been probably much more.
Zaka, first of all, I want to convey condolences to the 11 families who have lost 11 precious lives. On behalf of my party, I want to convey these condolences to the families. Having said that, let me first tell you that how shameless Congress can be. Killer Congress is responsible for the death of this 11 precious life, and still the Chief Minister, the Home Minister, the Deputy Chief Minister are making statements which only suggest they are insensitive to the loss of lives, of precious lives. Because, first of all, what was the tearing hurry to organize this event? You could have had this kind of parade, victory parade. There's no harm in government or the Chief Minister to be associated or participate there, being the Chief Minister of the state. But the way it has been organized is something which everybody would like to ask question and put the state government in the dock. Because
no, the state government is saying they didn't organize. RCB organized, Cricket Association organized. They have nothing to do with it.
Zaka, who is responsible? Is it not the state administration is responsible for the safety and security of the citizen of Bengaluru or for the state? Who is responsible? If you know that the state, some private or association is organizing some event which is dangerous for the public at large, it is whose responsibility to stop it? Is it the responsibility of the private organization or is the responsibility of the state administration? Let me ask you this. First of all, they knew fully well, but they just wanted to be part of this proceedings so that they can highlight that they are also taking the advantage of RCB's victory for their political gains.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they didn't realize that this kind of event needs to be organized, not in haste, but with proper planning.
So, Brajesh, can you answer both of those questions?
Yes.
Number one, what was the hurry?
Last question.
Quickly, please.
When you have this kind of victory parade, you know that there will be hundreds and thousands of sports lovers will be there. You can have some management protocol for management of this kind of large crowd.
Okay.
But there was no protocol maintained.
So Brajesh, two questions. One, what was the pressing hurry to hold this within 24 hours of the victory that happened in Ahmedabad on Tuesday night? And secondly, even to organize a wedding which has 1,000 people coming, you have to inform the local police station. If there is a crowd management required, they will send 1 or 2 constables. Here you have a situation where a team has won after 18 years. Surely somebody should have anticipated that lakhs would turn out. And they had 5,000 cops for 2 to 3 lakh people. What would they do?
See, Zaka, I think the question is very...
No, let Brajesh answer that. That question is to Brajesh.
The question is very germane. But I wish the question had originally come from you, Zaka, because I'm not here to actually take questions from the BJP, right?
Are you saying this is not a valid question?
No, 1 minute. Let me complete, sir. Why are you so anxious? See, as far as the BJP is concerned, they are the people who tweeted in the first place. And that tweet has now been deleted. They put pressure on the government that the players want to go on a victory parade on an open bus. Why are you not permitting? They, in fact, went hammer and tongs against the Home Minister, trying to put pressure on him. When this entire incident occurred, then they deleted that tweet quite quietly and now they've changed their stance. I hope you're aware of this, Zaka. This is the first part. Now, second part is that as far as the event is concerned, right, whether it's a event which was originated as an idea, as conceived as an idea from the RCB or from the KSCA or from the government will be known by the magisterial inquiry, right? The very fact that cases have been registered against the RCB, against certain entities, means that there is evidence, that there is material against these entities. It's not like the BJP is saying. The BJP is now trying to make fool of the public by first trying to pressure the government by acting in a particular way, and now changing their stand totally, and then going hammer and tongs against the government.
Okay, Zafar, respond. He's saying that your party put out tweets saying that why are you not having an open-top bus ride, etc. And now, after this terrible tragedy, you've deleted that tweet. That's what he's claiming.
I'm really aghast, having heard from Mr. Kalappa. First of all, whatever the public, or for that matter, even somebody from the Bharatiya Janata Party may persuade the state administration, did they ask not to have a crowd management protocol in place? Did they say that there should not be crowd management protocol in place? It is their responsibility. We can have victory parade. Every state had a victory parade. Whichever team has won, they had a victory parade. Not in this kind of haste. It has been organized. These were within 24 hours. It has been organized after 3 days of 7 days with proper planning. There was no planning. They just wanted to take the undue advantage of their victory. And that is why they wanted to politicize it. They wanted to take the political advantage, which actually went against all this stunt has backfired on them.
It's an unfortunate turn of events that 11 people had to die. I mean, for a city, for a team that was so thirsty and starved of this lone IPL title, unfortunately, the 4th of June will be etched in the blood of those 11 unfortunate victims who died. Like I said, completely avoidable deaths, and it's a real shame. It's a real tragedy that, yes, absolutely go after the organizers, go after the KSCA, but to say that the state has no role in it, the police have no role in it, the crowd management protocols not being followed, I think that's just a way of trying to absolve responsibility. But we'll see. We'll see for the results of this magisterial inquiry. Thank you very much in the meanwhile, Brijesh Kalappa and Zafar Islam for joining us on this broadcast. I want to move on to other stories. The DGCA, the Director General of Civil Aviation, has conducted a series of safety oversight and ramp inspections of Turkish Airlines, both passenger as well as cargo operations across 4 major Indian airports. That's Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai and Bengaluru. They did this from the 29th of May to the 2nd of June. The basis was to try and evaluate the airline's adherence to both domestic and international aviation safety standards. During the inspection, the DGCA claims that multiple compliance issues were reported against Turkish Airlines. This is what DGCA claims it has found against the airline. Number one, that they carried explosives without permission, that dangerous cargo was not declared in the required documents that they needed to be declared in. At the Bengaluru airport, the DGCA officials found that the marshaller who was responsible for ground operations did not possess the required authorization or a valid competency card for marshalling duties. That was a lapse in personnel training and compliance. Further, no valid competency card was also maintained for ground staff operations. An engineer was absent during the arrival of flights, and in his absence, a technician took over the duties of the engineer. Moreover, no service level agreement was maintained with ground handling agents. Even the ground handling operations lacked any formal handover. The equipment at the Hyderabad and Bengaluru airports were poorly monitored and maintained. The ladders, trolleys were not properly accounted for. Now, taking strict note of these findings, or rather the lack of any kind of protocol and process to be put in place by the Turkish Airlines, the Aviation Authority has now issued a warning to Turkish Airlines. The DGCA has instructed that Turkish Airlines take immediate corrective action and ensure full compliance with the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO's, standards and recommended practices. It has also asked for the Indian Civil Aviation regulations, as outlined by the DGCA, to be followed in letter and spirit. The DGCA has also warned a further follow-up inspection will be conducted as and when necessary to ensure continued compliance. The aviation regulator also reaffirmed that ensuring operational safety and oversight remains a top priority and must be adhered with.
Detailed safety oversight and ramp inspections were carried out by Indian Civil Aviation Regulatory Authority, that is DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation, against all Turkish passenger and cargo planes in Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai and Bengaluru airports between May 29th and June 2nd. Even though these were done in the latest aftermath of military escalation between India and Pakistan, and how Turkey openly came in support of that, but this inspection has come out with glaring lapses on part of Turkish Airlines operating in India. Now, to start with, marshaller competency was the first violation that was noticed. This means marshals are basically staff that guides an aircraft when it is on ground. They guide it on ground with hand signaling and other expertise. It has been seen that the marshaller staff that the airline was using did not have competent certification or were competent enough to operate on ground at the airside. Another violation that has been noticed is that dangerous goods, which is a category on which if you are carrying any good that lies in that category, you need to declare it and you need to inform the competent authorities and do proper file work to carry such goods to or from India as per the laid procedures by the DGCA. Those were being violated and no such paperwork was being done or competent authorities were being informed when Turkish Airlines were carrying goods that are categorized or classified as dangerous goods. In fact, in third violation, it has been noticed in both Hyderabad and Bengaluru airport, where Globe Ground India was providing ground services without a formal handover by the Celebi. Celebi is a firm that had recently been blacklisted by India because it's a Turkish firm, and following the recent escalation, it had been blacklisted, and it has been found that no service level agreement was in place between Turkish Airlines and its ground handling agent.
About airlines and air power, in a big boost to India's defense capabilities, Rafale's manufacturer Dassault Aviation has now partnered with the Tata Group to manufacture some parts of the Rafale fighter jet for India as well as for other global markets. 4 agreements have been inked as part of this. This partnership will include a manufacturing facility which will be set up in Hyderabad. Tata will manufacture key structural sections of the Rafale, like the fuselage section, which is expected to roll off the assembly line in the next 3 years. The Rafale fuselages will be produced outside of France for the very first time. The timing of the announcement could not be more significant because tensions have been simmering along the Western Front between India and Pakistan. Rafale has already proven its worth again in this clash in Operation Sindoor between the 7th and 10th of May. By shifting core manufacturing to Indian soil, India is also signaling that it's not just a buyer of military equipment now, it's also a builder of military equipment. This is a big reaffirmation for the Make in India in the defense sector. Now, here's why this is a potentially game-changer move as far as the defense sector in India is concerned. Amid heightened tensions with Pakistan, this move is a powerful signal of New Delhi's deepening resolve to become a self-reliant aerospace power. The move will increase India's leverage in regional power dynamics. It will reduce dependencies on external suppliers. With Rafale now donning the Make in India tag, this move will also serve as a backbone for future indigenous and global defense projects. So the various parliamentary delegations that India has sent out to various countries, more than 60 countries around the world, some of them are now returning. The group headed by BJP MP Jay Panda went to many countries in the Middle East, some of them Muslim countries. One member who was part of that delegation, who's emerged as a very articulate spokesperson for India's point of view, for articulating India's position and why India had to carry out Operation Sindoor, is the Hyderabad Member of Parliament, Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi. He's now joining us. Thank you very much, Mr. Owaisi. While you were on this 4-nation trip, you called out Pakistan for its role in cross-border terrorism. What did you see or what did you perceive? Was there any tangible shifts that you saw when you were discussing Pakistan's role in terrorism? What was the response that you and your delegation received from some of these countries that you visited?
Well, you see, all these countries are independent countries. They are sovereign. They will take their own decisions. But when we spoke to our interlocutors, we had given them a lot of examples, lot of proofs as well of how Pakistan is supporting these terrorist activities. We also told them the speech that was given by their now Field Marshal on April 15th, especially the last part of his speech where he talked about Kashmir being a jugular vein, and how Pakistan will stand with all these people who are opposing India. And then how Pakistan, with the help of China, didn't allow the naming of TRF in the resolution that was passed in Security Council about the Pahalgam attack. We had told them that these many emails which were sent claiming responsibilities of Pahalgam attack, 2 of them emanated from Pakistan, from an area which was closer to Pakistani cantonment area. And so on. So this was basically, we had historical relationship with all these countries, and we were able to put forward the best case about India's concern in front of the respective leaders of these countries.
You have consistently spoken out against Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. There was a comment of yours which went viral where you spoke specifically about the Pakistan Army and its Army Chief. What prompted you to say that?
Well, that was a very easy thing to prove, because the Pakistan Field Marshal could not even get an original painting and gets earlier Chinese drill painting to showcase to the world that, oh, this is what we have done with India. So I had tried to expose Pakistan lies, their wrong messaging, the deliberate wrong messaging about India. And it was a good opportunity to expose how Pakistan works, without China they are nothing. And their handicap because of the Chinese support which they get. And it was a good opportunity to expose Pakistan deceit and lies.
So you have seen this now firsthand, the diplomatic moves that India is making around the global capitals to try and counter this threat. What more do you think the government of India, the state of India can do to try and counter this even more?
Well, I think the first thing would be that we must ensure that Pakistan is included again in the FATF grey list. And today also I have read news that Asian Development Bank has given $800 million to Pakistan.
Yeah.
Now there has to be some monitoring of all these loans which Pakistan is getting, whether from ADB, IMF, they are expecting something from World Bank. So there has to be monitoring. Otherwise, these funds will not go to the upliftment of the Pakistani people or to eradicate poverty over there or to eradicate polio over there. It will go to the army corps commanders from there to these terror organizations. So let us hope that we are able to get Pakistan included by our friends in the FATF grey list.
I want to come back to some of the domestic narrative, particularly in the immediate aftermath of Operation Sindoor. There was a section of people who thought that India should continue its military operations for a few more days, hit the enemy harder, not immediately agree to the ceasefire request. What is your take on that?
Well, first of all, the suggestion of firing was done because of the Pakistan DGMO had spoken to our DGMO. And it is a fact that our Indian DGMO, after taking permission from our Prime Minister, agreed to it. But the important point is that I was quite upset and saddened that this decision of cessation of firing should have been announced by our Prime Minister, by the political leadership of our country. Instead of that, we hear it from a tweet of the US President. That is, that was a difficult thing for me to accept.
Finally, this political unity that we saw, at least certainly in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, that now seems to be unraveling despite whatever your delegation and other delegations have done in global capitals. Rahul Gandhi, for example, just a few days ago saying that Prime Minister Modi surrendered under pressure from Mr. Trump. How do you react to this? Do you think that statements like this weaken India's position internationally?
Well, Rahul Gandhi is capable enough, his party is capable enough to substantiate or to explain the statement he had made. I cannot do it for him or for his party because I proudly represent my party. I can speak for my party only.
You have always been facing this criticism that somehow you are linked as the B team of the BJP. Political detractors have brought that up as well. And now you've emerged as one of the most articulate spokespersons for India and putting India's point of view in these global capitals. How do you see both of this?
No, that is the democratic right. Again, it is India's democracy at work. Whatever I have said politically in India, whatever I have said representing India as part of this delegation is what I believe in. And I have not said it to get any accreditation from anyone. I have not said it to get any certificate of patriotism from anyone. I don't work on those lines. My thought process is different. And people can criticize me. They can continue to say whatever they want. But the fact of the matter is that these are all lies. These obnoxious statements are made only because they cannot accept what I am saying, and they firmly believe in stereotyping and boxing Muslims, put them in a box. So that is not on, this is a new generation of Indian Muslims which we are seeing now. whose ambitions are as same as every other Indian, who want to progress in life, who want equality, who want dignity, who want peace, who want prosperity. So I represent those hopes and aspirations.
Finally, there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of media attention also on what the Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, said recently at the Shangri-La Dialogue, that yes, India did face some fighter planes that went down. I want your reaction to that.
The reply to your question is that I and my party, we are proud of our defence forces. We are proud that our air defences had worked properly. We are proud that all the platforms worked properly. We are proud that on the night of 9th from Gujarat to Punjab to Rajasthan to J&K, the border was lit up, because Pakistan was sending their drones, firing, shelling. It's very unfortunate that civilian died in Poonch, which includes 2 twin children and an imam of a masjid. We lost 5 of our government personnel.
Okay.
That's what I can say. But I'm sure when the Parliament starts, the government will be asked all these important questions. We have recently heard a statement from the CDS, who attended a very prestigious IISS Shangri-La Dialogue and said what he said. So of course, that is also an acceptance by the government. The CDS cannot say it without the consent of political leadership.
All right, Mr. Owaisi, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much once again for joining us here on CNN News 18. Thank you. All right, that was Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi, Member of Parliament from Hyderabad, part of the delegations that have gone to these various capitals, putting forth his point of view, putting forth India's point of view in order to try and drive home the point that India did what it did through Operation Sindoor because of the attack that happened in Pahalgam. There's a lot of geopolitical flux, not just in the Indo-Pacific, but certainly what we've seen here in India in the last month and a half after the Pahalgam terror attack and then Operation Sindoor. What is the global view on what has happened in this part of the world, as also what happens now to the Indo-Pacific, the Quad? I'm now joined by a very, very special guest here on this special CNN News 18 interview. Mr. Richard Marles is the Deputy Prime Minister and the Defence Minister of Australia. Thank you very much for joining us and welcome to India. You incidentally are here on the 5th anniversary of the establishment of the India-Australia Strategic Partnership. How would you view these last 5 years?
Well, I think we've seen the relationship go to a completely different level, and we're very grateful for the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, but also Prime Minister Albanese in taking forward the bilateral relationship over the course of these 5 years. I think particularly we've seen a huge step forward in terms of defence and security cooperation. We are more strategically aligned with India today than we have ever been in our respective histories. And it's a long, deep relationship with a lot of people-to-people links. There's a growing Indian diaspora in Australia. We share passions like cricket. And we were here. I was watching the IPL final last night, and Josh Hazlewood. So there's all that there. But what we are doing is creating a strategic dimension to that relationship. Much more work being done in respect of maritime domain awareness, for example. And we have quite an ambitious agenda about taking that forward even further. In the last decade, we've seen a tripling of the exercises that our service personnel are engaged in together. And we think there's more we can do together, but together with other countries. And so that's exciting. But economically as well, I mean, we have seen as India has grown its trade with the rest of the world, that trade to the growth in the trade to Australia is double what it is to the rest of the world. And so amongst its trading partners, Australia is climbing the ladder from the Indian worldview. We are hopeful that CECA, which will be the next iteration of our trade relationship, is able to be concluded in the not too distant future as well. So a lot's happened, but as we meet and on the 5th anniversary of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, what there also is a momentum to go even further over the next 5 years.
I do want to ask you, I mean, the momentous events that have happened in the last month and a half here, the Pahalgam terror attack in which 26 civilians were killed, and then India responded to that with Operation Sindoor. And the feeling was, certainly amongst the general public, that major Western countries have not come out and supported India for its right to defend itself against these terrorists and these terrorist actions. How would you speak to that concern?
Well, firstly, we met the news of what happened in Pahalgam with utter shock. This was an appalling attack, and Prime Minister Albanese spoke with Prime Minister Modi almost immediately after these events to extend Australian condolences to India on behalf of in respect of the loss of life, and and as I'm here today, we've reiterated that, and to say that our thoughts and prayers are very much with the families of those who lost loved ones. We stand with India, as we stand with all countries, to combat terrorism. We want to continue to work with India in combating terrorism in all its forms around the world. We do acknowledge and welcome the stoppage in military activity. We actually see that as an act of Indian leadership. But we continue to want to work with India as we confront the scourge of terrorism in all its forms.
The concern among some quarters has also been that people tend to forget the act of terror, which was the reason why the military action happened, and now the focus is on some kind of equanimity between India and Pakistan. Again, how would you address that concern?
We see that there was an act of terror that we condemn. And in simple terms, we stand with India as we stand with all countries in seeking to combat terrorism, and that's where Australia stands. And we look forward to working with India to contend with and combat terrorism in all its forms around the world.
And you would support India's right to defend itself against this kind of?
As I say, we work very. We stand with India and with every country which seeks to combat terrorism. We condemn this terrorist attack, and I stand. I'm here today, very much making that clear. And as I say, our Prime Minister was very quickly expressing our shock at what happened and our condolences, extending our condolences to India.
You did mention a moment ago that you did note the quick cessation of military action, and you said that speaks to India's leadership.
Yes.
Would you care to elaborate on that?
Well, we obviously we welcome a stoppage in military activity, but we don't take any of that for granted. These are difficult decisions, and we see that fundamentally as an act of Indian leadership, and we wanted to acknowledge that in the way in which we express our appreciation for the stoppage in military activity. In the same breath, we wanted to make clear that we do see that as not an easy decision and an act of Indian leadership.
There's been a lot of chatter around the fact that it was the US and President Trump who brought about this ceasefire. The Indian government certainly doesn't agree to that point of view. It was a direct negotiation between India and Pakistan. How would you view that?
Well, it's in the terms that I just said, and why we are. It's important that we express it in the way that I just have. Every country has an interest in living in a peaceful world. So we all appreciate the stoppage in military activity, but we acknowledge this as an act of Indian leadership. And that's the point we want to make.
I do want to talk a little bit about the Quad. I know the Quad sort of started some years ago. It's now at the summit level. India's going to be hosting this year's Quad summit. The feeling seems to be it's sort of digressed or lost its way a bit because of all of these events that have happened in the recent past.
I think this Quad is very important. It'll be the first Quad, for example, since the inauguration of President Trump. And so it's one that matters. Look, fundamentally, we look back to the creation of the Quad, which actually happened in the aftermath of the Indian Ocean tsunami, and 4 countries that shared values, democracies, seeking to work together to improve the way in which we could respond to that disaster and improve humanitarian assistance and disaster relief within the Indo-Pacific. The Quad has expanded well beyond that, but that is actually a good example of the kind of activities that the Quad is about. It is there to seek to improve the Indo-Pacific and look at ways in which these 4 countries which share values can work together in respect of that. It is not a military construct. It never has been. Now we have.
And you don't want it to be a military alliance either.
It's not what it is. But we have a military relationship with the United States, clearly an alliance partner, with Japan, but with India. And there are other mechanisms by which we can move that forward. Now, at a bilateral level, as we've said, in respect of the comprehensive strategic partnership on this, the 5th anniversary of that, speaking to my counterpart Minister Singh, we see that the fact that we have elevated defence and security issues to being one of the most significant, if not the most significant pillar in the bilateral relationship is a profoundly important thing. It speaks to the innate trust that exists now between Australia and India, and so we are progressing that defence relationship, and we are similarly doing work with the United States, which we've done for a long time, but also with Japan.
But you don't envisage Quad becoming like AUKUS or like the Five Eyes. That's never the intention, and that's not the direction in which all these 4 countries want to go.
It's not what the Quad construct is about.
Okay.
We work with Japan, we work with the United States, we work with India, and all of the 4 countries in one form or another work with each other in respect of defence. There are other avenues by which we can pursue that cooperation. I mean, we are democracies, and we all seek to build a rules-based order and a free and open Indo-Pacific, and so that we have that in common, and that does lend itself to defence cooperation, and that is occurring. But it's not necessarily the Quad which is the construct for that.
But coming to what you said about having a rules-based order in the Indo-Pacific, you're just coming off the Shangri-La dialogue, and there's been a lot of chatter there where the US Defense Secretary issued a pretty stark warning saying that there is a real threat of China and its behavior in the Indo-Pacific, and that he's urged countries in this part of the world to invest more in securing themselves. That was the reason why Quad came into existence in the first place, wasn't it? To try and ensure that the rise of China or its behavior is managed in a way in the Indo-Pacific? In
a sense, that's the point. I don't actually think that is the history of the Quad.
Okay.
But we do see China engaging in the biggest military build-up, conventional military build-up that we have seen since the end of the Second World War. That's no small matter. They're doing that without a sense of strategic reassurance. Exactly why is it that China is engaging in such a military build-up? This is a significant part of what makes the strategic circumstances deeply complex for Australia, but for India, for the countries of the region. We want to work more with the countries of the region, and we want to work more together with India, but as I said earlier, together with India and with other countries.
So the concerns raised by Secretary Hegseth, you are affirming those concerns. Those concerns are very real.
We have articulated for a long time our concern about China's increasing military build-up, and that is happening without any sense of strategic reassurance. That's a point that we've been making for some time, and you can see the way in which that is shaping the circumstances of the Indo-Pacific and the way in which countries are responding. It is part of why I make the statement that I did at the beginning of this interview, that our strategic alignment with India has never been closer, has never been greater than what it is now, and we are seeking to work much more with India at a defence level, as we are with Japan, as we are with the United States, but as we are with other countries in the region as well. I mean, last year, for example, we signed a defence cooperation agreement with Indonesia, profoundly important agreement for a country right adjacent to Australia. We're doing more with Singapore, providing its strategic depth, doing more training of the Singaporean Defence Forces in Australia, and we're looking at ways in which we can expand our defence cooperation with other countries, the Philippines, Korea, I could go on. All of this is about trying to build balance within the region and bring together those countries in differing ways, in practical ways, to assert the rules-based order. We want a stable, peaceful Indo-Pacific in which countries mediate their issues and disputes by reference to the rule of law, not by reference to might and power.
My last couple of questions. One is, because there's a huge Indian diaspora in Australia, and a lot of them happen to be students, just in the last year or so, or last couple of years, there seems to be a bit of a clampdown by major universities or the immigration authorities in Australia. How would you address that concern?
Look, that's not right. I mean, we firstly, the Indian Australian community is an incredible asset for our nation. There's 1 million Indian Australians now. It's the fastest growing community within Australia, and there's a richness to life, but just a sense of industry and activity which is really fantastic, and so we are very much the beneficiaries of that. In terms of Indian students coming to Australia to study, that is something that we welcome. It's a really important part of our educational sector. Education is a significant export for our country, and we want it to continue to be so. So, we welcome Indian students in Australia, and we are very excited about the growth in the Indian Australian community.
One final word. I know that Prime Minister Modi is a great believer in personal equations with world leaders. He's had a great equation with Prime Minister Albanese. He's had it with past Australian Prime Ministers as well. How does that change or elevate the sort of speed and impetus with which the other principals have to deal with the relationship?
Yeah, look, I think it's a really good question, and personal relationships matter, rapport matters. I mean, countries can relate to each other without it, but when you have it, it turbocharges things. It enables leaders to reach agreements, to cut through red tape, to make things happen. And I think what you've seen in the personal relationship between Prime Minister Albanese and Prime Minister Modi, which is deep and it is very warm, is an ability to really turbocharge the Australian-Indian relationship, and it's why we've seen so much occur in the last few years, and it's why we look with a sense of excitement and optimism into the future.
You said you watched the IPL final. Which team were you supporting?
Well, I've got it. Well, there are a couple of Australians, so I'm very pleased with Josh Hazlewood. I suppose if I'm being honest, the Punjab had Ricky Ponting as its coach. We had Stoinis and Josh Inglis, so I was kind of hoping that they might prevail. And to be honest, there's a significant Punjabi community amongst the Indian Australian community, and particularly in my hometown of Geelong. So, yeah, look, the Punjab Kings but still very. And look, you have to be excited for Virat Kohli for 18 years to be in the same franchise over the entire period of the IPL and to finally win an IPL trophy. It's a fantastic story.
All right, Mr. Richard Marles, thank you very much for this interview. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Co-presented by. This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Checks at major Indian airports. Concerns have been raised over the airline's adherence to international and domestic aviation standards. Inspections took place in Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi and Bengaluru. These inspections found that cargo classified as dangerous goods did not have the required permissions from the DGCA for transportation of explosives to and from India. These permissions were neither attached nor referenced in the dangerous goods declaration, which is a significant lapse that was identified at the Bengaluru airport, where the marshaller responsible to guide the aircraft during taxiing was found untrained. Civil Aviation Ministry has now asked Turkish Airlines to address these findings promptly and ensure full compliance with standards and recommendation practices. Anvit now joins us, getting us more details. Anvit, what does this mean for the future of the airlines? Is there any response coming in from Turkish Airlines to these queries that have been raised by the DGCA?
See, no response as such, but the DGCA guidelines are very strict when it comes to dangerous goods, which has recently been found on the Turkish planes that had landed at the 4 of the airports in Delhi, major airports in India. And the guidelines very clearly say that the laid down procedures, they should determine that as far as possible that the associated documentation of the aircraft that is carrying such goods should meet all norms. It has been found that the goods, that undeclared dangerous goods that was on board one of the Turkish Airlines plane, that had not been declared, and it had not been, the competent authorities had not been informed about it. In fact, one of the violations, grave violations, is also that the marshaller competency, marshalers are basically staff who guide the plane when it is on ground. Their job is to safely and efficiently guide an aircraft when it is grounded. And it was also found at the Bengaluru airport that the marshaller handling ground operations, they lack proper authorization and valid competency for marshalling functions. And in fact, if we talk about the Hyderabad and airport, at both Hyderabad and Bengaluru airport, where Globe Grounds India was providing ground services, it was also found that without formal handover from Celebi, against which the Indian government had recently taken action, it was found that no service level agreement, that is SLA, was in place between Turkish Airlines and its ground handling agent. So these are grave violations that have been noticed in a surprise inspection that was carried out by DGCA between 29th May and 2 June. And this was Safety Oversight and Ramp inspection that was conducted at 4 airports: Delhi, Hyderabad, Chennai and Bengaluru. And some grave violations have come before, against which Turkish Airlines officially has not commented so far, but these are important in the wake of the recent comment that Turkey had made, supporting barbaric attacks in Pahalgam, and also the aftermath thereafter that had happened, that tourists from India had, boycotted traveling to Turkey. Then Celebi's contract was also terminated. So following that, it certainly is an important development as far as India-Turkey relations are concerned.
Right, Anvit, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that front. Checks at major Indian airports. Concerns have been raised over the airline's adherence to international and domestic aviation standards. Inspections took place in Hyderabad, Chennai, Delhi and Bengaluru. These inspections found that cargo classified as dangerous goods did not have the required permissions from the DGCA for transportation of explosives to and from India. These permissions were neither attached nor referenced in the dangerous goods declaration, which is a significant lapse that was identified at the Bengaluru airport, where the marshaller responsible to guide the aircraft during taxiing was found untrained. Civil Aviation Ministry has now asked Turkish Airlines to address these findings promptly and ensure full compliance with standards and recommendation practices. Anvit now joins us, getting us more details. Anvit, what does this mean for the future of the airlines? Is there any response coming in from Turkish Airlines to these queries that have been raised by the DGCA?
See, no response as such, but the DGCA guidelines are very strict when it comes to dangerous goods, which has recently been found on the Turkish planes that had landed at the 4 of the airports in Delhi, major airports in India. And the guidelines very clearly say that the laid down procedures, they should determine that as far as possible that the associated documentation of the aircraft that is carrying such goods should meet all norms. It has been found that the goods, that undeclared dangerous goods that was on board one of the Turkish Airlines plane, that had not been declared, and it had not been, the competent authorities had not been informed about it. In fact, one of the violations, grave violations, is also that the marshaller competency, marshalers are basically staff who guide the plane when it is on ground. Their job is to safely and efficiently guide an aircraft when it is grounded. And it was also found at the Bengaluru airport that the marshaller handling.
Viewers, just think about this for a few moments. 11 young lives snuffed out. 11 young lives, viewers, squeezed by the arrogance of power, by the lust for headline grabbing, for self-aggrandizement, viewers, for constantly wanting to project an image for PR. That's what's gone down in the last 24 hours in Bengaluru, viewers. And I want to ask you, viewers, and you think about it. This entire IPL, these teams, they are powered by